Finally. Great Scott. Testing. 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 Mic check 1, 2, and 2. I like it. I need the black bag. Oh. Here we are, finally. Easy. Convenient. I play some music, but I don't want to violate anybody for using music I don't have the rights to. And because we're not yet excuse me. Let's see if we can get this going here. Pardon the delay. Just getting set up here, just getting back into it. I wanted to talk about this full moon. Let's see if we can go in here and do it like this. Let's see if we can see this because it should be... Well, that's not bad. That's not bad there. Testing. You know what we could do? We can actually go on here via the AirPods. Testing. Might be a little bit of a delay. Let's see. Testing. Test. Testing. I wonder if it's easy to see. It's a little blurry, but we can still get the idea. There it is. There it is. So I know this is a little bit confusing, or it appears to be confusing at first glance. But here it is. This is the full moon. The full moon in Leo, which is denoted by this symbol here. The full moon in Leo. Leo is naturally the 5th zodiac sign. And I want to put the houses in the compartments here just so we can see what is going on with the house placements. I didn't put it in here. I crafted this chart early this morning. One of the best ways to really start comprehending how this thing works, how the chart works, how the pieces come together. So we're going to mark our 30-degree sections. 30 is the magic number. Excuse me. Definitely going to want to get yourself a protractor, a pencil, a ruler. Start plotting this. This is one of the best ways to comprehend this art. Actually, that was wrong. It's a little bit off. I don't know why. How is that possible? Looks like I'm a little off somehow. Maybe. Just wanted to get the houses in here. I didn't do this before, but at least you get an opportunity to see how put the house compartments in here. Maybe. And it looks like it's a little off, but still need the house compartments in there. 1, 2, 3. I think I messed that up. So now I definitely messed this up big time with the house compartments. We got the first house, second house, third house, fourth house, fifth house, sixth house, seventh house, eighth house, ninth house, 10th house, 11th house, 12th house. Now we're all confused now, but we're still gonna rock with it here. Get our feet wet with this full moon in Leo. So if you look at this chart, before I go into that, when it comes to all the many different components of the astrological chart, you're going to want to focus on a specific area. So if we were to take everything away and just only focus on Leo for the moment, we can start to compile evidence or testimonies that support the nature of what's going to be going on, what's going to be happening. And so we can be general and basic, or we can get into a little more complex understanding of how to break this chart down or to unpack some of the natures So we have Leo here. And if you look here, we have Leo shaded, just like we have Aquarius shaded, Scorpio shaded, and Taurus shaded. And the reason is because the full moon in Leo, the sun is always opposed the moon during a full moon. But Aquarius is a fixed air sign, Leo is a fixed fire sign, and these are sister signs one to another. So we have air and we have fire. Air feeds fire if we just look at it basically and generally speaking. So Aquarius, the knowledge or the shock, look at that, the shock of Aquarius, the shocking nature of Aquarius startles the heart, Leo. That's an interesting feature right there in the dynamic of these two sister signs, Leo and Aquarius. So I have those shaded, as well as Scorpio and Taurus, which are also shaded, and it creates this square. It definitely, most indubitably creates this square from 0 degrees of Taurus to 0 degrees of Leo. Let's do this in a marker color. Creates this square here. Okay, from 0 degrees of Leo to 0 degrees of Scorpio. From 0 degrees of Taurus to 0 degrees of Leo. And then from 0 degrees of Scorpio to 0 degrees Aquarius. And this is what you call a square. And it goes from 0 degrees of Scorpio, 0 degrees of Aquarius, 0 degrees Taurus, 0 degrees Leo. Now we can even emphasize this square even more so with the end of the sign. So 0 degrees of Scorpio would be the end to 0 degrees Aquarius. From the last degree of Leo to the last degree of Taurus. From the end of Scorpio to the end of Leo. And from the end of Taurus to the end of Leo. So we have two squares here, and these two squares in here denote this grand cross, if you will, in the astrological chart. And squares are important when it comes to astrology because it denotes a couple of things. Squares denote tension or challenge. So there's challenges being formed just by the sun being in Aquarius and the moon being in a Leo. It creates this dynamic square with the fixed signs, Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. These four fixed signs are known as the beast, if you will. Scorpio is known as the phoenix bird, or the black widow, or the eagle. Aquarius is known as man. Taurus is known as the bull, and Leo is known as the lion. So just with the archetypes of the beast, the nature of the beast, we can see that the sun in Aquarius is the man beast, the intellect, because air signs are intellectual. And it involves Leo, which is the roar, the lion, the aggressor. So we have this dynamic between intelligence and aggression. Fire, which is enthusiastic, excitable energy of the emotions to be excited and to express our balancing or sister signing, or the polar opposite, which is a man trying to figure out how to capture this beast even. There's a relationship. Whenever you have sister signs or signs that oppose one another, there's a relationship there. And so the challenge is the possessions Taurus, and the desires, Scorpio. So just from that, we can extract that it may be beneficial to control our desires and our possessive nature, Taurus, when it comes to this full moon in Aquarius. So this cross, this grand cross, which I have highlighted here, Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, is what this full moon that's happening Thursday, January 25th. It's 12:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so Gemini is on the ascendant at the time of this full moon where I'm located. You definitely want to check your location. If you're in California, then Taurus would be rising and it would give a different face, if you will. The ascendant sign, which is usually denoted over here on the left side of the circle, but because I only have one chart here, I've denoted the time that the moon ingressed into Leo at 0 degrees, 28 degrees Scorpio was rising. And the reason why I did that is because I find that and have found that when you look at the rising sign at the time that a planet ingresses into a zodiac sign, it kind of denotes the nature and or the face of the whole duration of the moon through Leo. So Scorpio at 28 degrees was rising at the time that the moon ingressed into Leo. So there's a secondary testimony that highlights Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus, and Leo. Again, those are two testimonies. First testimony is the sun in Aquarius and the moon in Leo. The second testimony is at the time the moon ingressed into Leo, Scorpio was rising. So it makes another, like I said, testimony of these fixed signs being at play here with the intellect and the ego and the controlling of the ego and the intellect with values and desires. So I find that pretty significant for anywhere in your astrological chart that you have Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus. They'll be pronounced. These four zodiac signs are heightened. It's almost as if like if it were a play, they would be the actors that would be speaking. So for Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, sun, moon, or rising signs, this would point to you in a sense. This full moon in Leo would pronunciate these signs. They would be active, especially where Aquarius is located. So we have the control of our possessions and our desires, utilizing our ego and our intellect. So those are two testimonies there. Now I want to go to the degree. I want to go to the degree of the moon. Now mind you, the full moon is at 5 degrees and 14 arc minutes. And we'll get into arc minutes in a later video. But this 5 degree 14 arc minutes is significant. This 5 degrees and 14 arc minutes is significant. So if we were to, we can actually pronunciate this even a little bit more. I want to do this here. This is a protractor that I use to create this handheld chart. And the reason why I think that this is a benefit is because it slows the mind down a little bit. And you can see step by step these astrological natures actually come to how they activate, how they come alive, if you will. So I want to mark 5 degrees of each sign because the moon is at 5 degrees Leo, 5 degrees 14 arc minutes. So you want to look at your chart. I encourage you to grab your charts if you're listening for sure. This video will help you with going through your chart and comprehending this full moon in Leo. So I'm going to mark 5 degrees Libra, 5 degrees Scorpio, 5 degrees Sagittarius, 5 degrees Capricorn. Now we're going to flip it around. Did I do that right? I think I did that wrong. No, I did it right. And we're going to line flip it over so we can get the 5 degrees on the other side. 5 degrees Aquarius, which is where the sun is. 5 degrees, which is where Saturn is. 5 degrees Aries, 6, 5 degrees Gemini, and 5 degrees Cancer. So if you have planets situated at any of these points, they will be highlighted, regardless of the sign. So we're marking every 5 degrees on this zodiac. And sometimes you run into space issues with not enough space on the circle. We're going to see this thing come together a little bit. Maybe. Okay, there's that. That was 5 already. Did we get all of them? Almost. One more 5. Degree marker. And you really can't even see that really, but these are, how do I do that? Wait a minute, I think I figured it out. I think I've cracked the case. Thank you for your patience. Let's get a little higher. Ah. We just got to be careful that we don't move around too much. Okay, pop. So if you're just getting here, welcome, Grand Rising. We have an astrological chart here. We're talking about this full moon in Leo at 5 degrees and 14 arc minutes. Just to recap a little bit real quick, we recognize that Aquarius and Leo are oppose one another. They're sister signs. So Aquarius characteristics and natures manifest or are expressed, as well as Leo archetypes are expressed. Now, just by this sun being in Aquarius, the moon being in Leo, it also heightens or highlights all 4 of the fixed zodiac signs: Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. I talked about how the moon, or any planet for that matter, the moment that it ingresses into a sign, looking at the rising sign is significant to let you know the face of said situation. So not only do we have the fixed zodiac signs as highlight, we also have the moment that the moon ingressed into Leo, Scorpio was rising in the eastern coast of the United States. That's where I am, so that's where I'm doing it for. So it's a secondary testimony that points to these fixed signs in your astrological chart. We talked about the 5th degree and 14th arc minute of Leo, where the full moon will be. The full moon will be at 5. The moon will be at 5 degrees, 14 arc minutes. The sun will be at 5 degrees, 14 arc minutes. And so we've marked 5 degrees of every sign, which denotes anyone's chart and what they have at 5 degrees. It's kind of like another testimony to highlight that planetary energy, if you will. And if we look here closely, we can see that the moon is at 514. Right? We can also see that Venus is really close to 5. It's at 2 degrees. We have the sun at 514. We have Saturn at 514. Neptune 25. We have Jupiter at 6. That's close enough. So we have a hit of 5 degrees, not really Venus because Venus is at 2 degrees, but we have the Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, the Moon. Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, and the Moon. So it highlights Aquarius, Pisces, Taurus, Leo. Capricorn as well because Venus is there, so it'll be a little bit of our finances, a need to structure and have a little more discipline with our finances. That's supported by Saturn being in Pisces with discipline again being a testimony because it's at 5 degrees. The expression of knowledge and truth and knowing and advancement is present. Jupiter is at 6 degrees of Taurus. This is benefits, opportunities, with the discipline in regards to finances and resources, right? And we have the Moon, where the Moon is full at in Leo, which has to do with the expression of self. They say that full moons are when it's a time where it's a letting go. It's a releasing. So in a sense, we should be releasing, in that matter, we should be releasing some of the ego a little bit, or the pride, in order to receive, to express this knowledge and truth, right? It requires us to listen, using our listening skills, and not to be jealous or as jealous, because Scorpio is the zodiac sign of jealousy. So unpacking this full moon a little bit. All right, so those are a couple of things that I've noticed. Now, we have Venus, the Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, and the Moon, because those are at 5 degrees or close to 5 degrees, if you will. Now, if we look a little bit closer, we can see I have here a bigger triangle. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to mark this thing up. Why not? I'm going to mark this thing up because there's a need to see this thing. If I draw a big, thick blue line, this is the full moon axis, right? At 5 degrees, 14 arc minutes. The Sun is at 5 degrees, 14 arc minutes. And Jupiter is at 6. And these are what you call aspects. So we have the Sun. We have the Sun at 5 degrees Aquarius, which is the truth seeker, searching for truth, searching for knowledge, willing to express one's own knowledge base. And it's making a 95-degree aspect. It's actually applying to a square between the Sun and Jupiter. Whoa, so that's a heavy hitter right there. And so we can see this triangle that has formed in the astrological chart between the Sun, Jupiter, and the Moon. So this makes Jupiter to be the most significant planet. Now, Jupiter is fortune, it's opportunity, it's benefits. But because it's forming a square with the Sun and a square with the Moon, this is called what you call a T-square. The Sun is 90 degrees from Jupiter, the Moon is 90 degrees from Jupiter. And they're both applying to a square. Like there's a little more pressure on one's educational pursuits depending on where it is, where you have Taurus. So Taurus becomes to be a significator and a highlight as well. So we kind of, with astrology, you kind of get overlapping testimonies, which you're like, it reminds me of Angelina Jolie and Denzel Washington in The Bone Collector. It really, really does. It really, really does. It really, really does. And another reason why I like using the protractor and the pencils, because you can't really do this on the computer programs. You can't like highlight, and maybe you can, but not as good as this. Because now we can see the chart coming together with these highlights and these focal points, if you will. So Jupiter, this has to do with education. It has to do with schooling. It has to do with the purchasing of school materials and books and educational resources and the such. Something to pay attention to. So there's that testimony. Now, I want to go back to Leo and Aquarius, and I want to talk to and speak to the planetary rulers. Saturn is the ancient ruler of Aquarius, and as well as Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. And Saturn is in Pisces, which is the second sign from Aquarius, which has to do with and speaks to the stabilization of resources and values and funds and money again. So we not only have this grand cross of the fixed signs, but when it comes to the planetary rulership, we also have another testimony that speaks to the need for stabilization and structuring and conserving of one's resources. Uranus is the other planet that rules Aquarius, and it's located in Taurus over here. So we have a relationship with the self-expression and inventions and knowledge and the use of one's knowledge as a foundational base, especially for Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising signs. But this Jupiter is pretty significant. There's a lot of pressure on Jupiter here. It makes me think about travel, whether it be a plane traveling or new forms of travel and transportation that we hear. I wonder if it makes me think about stocks a little bit too, because this Jupiter and Uranus combination in Taurus does change and grow and expand the financial base, especially with this country being a Cancer rising. Taurus is the 11th house of the United States of America, if you will. And so the formation of allies, even because Taurus is Cancer's 11th house, if we were to count Cancer as one. So that's pretty interesting to me how significant Jupiter is in this astrological chart, with the T-square between the sun, the moon, and Jupiter. This relationship here is the most significant. So we have Saturn, and we have Uranus in Taurus, Saturn in Pisces. Now I want to talk to the planetary ruler of the moon. The sun is the ruler of Leo, and it's located in Aquarius. So the moon is giving to Aquarius, if you will. It's almost like she is burning the flame and the fire of this air that he is blowing on, right? He blows. Aquarius is air, and it blows air onto Leo, and the fire flames and then gives it back to. So it's a nice balance between the two. Although the sun is in detriment when it's in Aquarius, it still activates Leo and Aquarius, this axis, if you will, in the astrological chart. And so it says that we need to take a little bit of caution too. I want to add that in there because Aquarius can be unpredictable. It can be unpredictable. So there's a need to control our anxiousness as well in regards to financial situations. And to even resort to some forms of meditation. Look at how Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius, and it's located in Pisces, which is a spiritual sign, a sign of beliefs, a sign of humbleness, if you will. I think of, as Pisces is the fish, I say Pisces is the fish and the frog. But notice how the fish kind of like moves like kind of slow and peacefully, if you will. And with Saturn there, it actually slows it down a little, slows the fish down a little bit more. So for us to slow down when it comes to our beliefs, that's another thing that Saturn in Pisces has to do with us becoming more stable in our beliefs and what it is that we believe, and being able to use discernment, Virgo, with spiritual beliefs and spiritual practices, and what it is that we choose to invest in. A Pisces is the second sign from Aquarius, which the second sign of any sign has to do with what you invest and how you invest and where to invest. In self, not necessarily the stock market, if you will. So there's that. So we have the Sun, Saturn, Uranus, the Moon, and the Sun, kind of like in this order, if you will. So I know, I believe, I have, and I will. Expressing your truth, believing in what it is that you value, what you place value on, with a strong emphasis on growth and expansion in connection to where Taurus is located in your astrological chart. Are there any questions so far? This is the full moon in Leo. So although Jupiter is being T-squared by the Sun and the Moon, and it looks like it's the most important planet in here, we also have other ripples, other planetary significators like Venus, because it's close to 5 degrees. The Sun is 5 degrees. Saturn is 5 degrees. Jupiter is 6 degrees, and the Moon is 5 degrees. Now I want to emphasize again the importance of paying attention to the rising sign at the exact moment of an event. That's a little tip and trick there. And per my location, the east coast of the United States, 5 degrees and 14 arc minutes is where the moon is full at exactly, and at that time 10 degrees of Gemini was rising. So it actually places the moon in the third house, which points to brother, sister, cousins, close relatives. And again, if this country, and in that this country is a Cancer sun sign, it is the second house, it is their values. And we talked about how the zodiac sign Taurus is significant because Jupiter is being T-squared. So this ascendant Gemini 10 degrees kind of emphasizes the communication and the brotherhood or the sisterhood of the United States and their allies and who they spend money with. You got to follow the money, because it kind of connects Taurus and Leo, which is the United States, finances and their friends. And for Cancer, Sun, Moon, and rising signs, Aquarius is the 8th house, which your partner's resources, what the friends are willing to contribute to them. Maybe the United States is trying to get a couple dollars. Interesting. That would be an interesting feature. So, there's that Gemini rising. Again, if you're in California, Taurus would be rising. It would be a little bit different. It would then focus again on the friends. Maybe it is in California. The friends in California. Interesting. That is pretty interesting. But there's a short video. I just wanted to touch upon that a little bit. Those are some of the features to this full moon in Leo. Stay tapped in. Be sure to like the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Oh, we got a question just before I was about to. Would you say planets within a certain orbit of the Yes. Neoma Nova. I'm so glad you asked the question. Okay? And if you look here, I emphasize this The sun is at 5 degrees and 14 arc minutes. The moon is at 5 degrees and 14 arc minutes. However, I circled in orange here the moon. I circled the sun. I circled Venus in Capricorn even. Venus is at 2 degrees of Capricorn, which is 3 degrees from 5, right? So Venus is also a significator and is within the orb of 5 degrees, even though we're not even talking about Aquarius and Leo. It doesn't matter for that matter. This is called the degree timetable. We have Saturn is also at 5 degrees. And we have Jupiter at 6. So Jupiter's not at 5, it's at 6, but it's still within vicinity. So these planets, just by degree, become highlighters, become highlights. That was a good question. I mean, we can even square those as well. Your natal moon is in Leo at 0 degrees, so that's a hit. Your natal moon, so your natal moon is here, right in this cluster. It's inside of here, in this cluster. Your moon is right here, it's touched, so it brings circumstances with the mom. You know, your mothering skills. You know, you're nurturing, how you nurture. This full moon has to do with your comforts. And that's a direct hit. If your moon is at 0 degrees of Leo, it's a direct hit for Pluto, because Pluto is currently at 0 degrees right now. So there's some deep changes working on you in regards to the family, things from the past resentments from the past that have crept in to be similar to like times right now, because the moon and Pluto are in a relationship. You know, this has to do with people, you working with people and using discernment with others manipulating you, and vice versa. It also points to your ego and how you express yourself, because it is the sun. And so it's kind of a learning experience for you too, because 0 degrees of Leo is making a square. This is an orbit or orb of Jupiter. So there's a square happening right now between your natal moon and Jupiter, which has to do with your travel, maybe some tension with travel, depending on what rising sign you are and where it's located in the chart. But hopefully you can get a little bit of an idea with what it is that I'm saying here. So those are some things for you to look at. Pluto is a direct hit on your moon, though. That's interesting. I wonder if you're getting ready to move or thinking about moving, or the living dynamics are uncomfortable for you. Dealing with someone who's being coercive, or a family member even, or even quite as simple as the mom or the mother. Oh, kinda. You're a Sag rising, kinda. And that Sagittarius rising, if you are a Sagittarius rising, right? Sagittarius planetary ruler is Jupiter. So this Jupiter at 6 degrees points to your work as well as your health, and you learning more about your health or implementing what it is that you have learned about your health in specific, right? And it makes for Leo to be your 9th house, which is a secondary testimony for you to be learning, right? We have the 9th house here, which is higher education and learning and incorporating what it is that you've learned with your health for the betterment of your health and well-being. Well, before you move, I don't know where you're located at, right? Before you move, you want to make sure that you check out your financial situation and have a plan. And I say that because you see these orange circles here. These orange circles denote the closeness and proximity to the 5th degree. But Saturn is at 5 degrees. If you're a Sagittarius rising, then 5 degrees of Pisces, Saturn in Pisces squares your ascendant, so it may be tough for you to move. There's going to need to be a specific plan if you do move. It's more of a getting your health. It looks like there's a focus of health and mental well-being as well, because the sun is in your 3rd house. 1, 2, 3 would be Aquarius. The full moon's in the 3rd and the 9th axis, which is you understanding and using your philosophy and what it is that you know for better health, Jupiter being the pinpoint or the focal point. Be sure to tap the like button. I'm the lab coat astrologer. I got a little bell here that I usually hit. It's early where I'm at. Excuse me, I wanted to share a little bit here about this full moon in Leo. Again, they say that full moons are a time to release and to let go of things. To release. So perhaps it is to release our pride and our ego. Maybe it is something that somebody said to you, right, or will say to you about your health that will trigger you to incorporate what it is that you've learned. Hillary, Taurus, Sun, Aquarius, Moon. Taurus Sun, depending on the degree, your sun sign is here. And so no matter where your sun is at, well, it does depend more on the specifics of degree, whether it's more Jupiterian influence or more Uranian influence, but both of them would still have an effect on your sun sign in Taurus with an Aquarius moon. So that triggers you, that puts you into the equation, if you will, with this full moon in Leo. It activates this blue triangle here that involves the sun, Jupiter, and the moon. So for you, it's also learning about your finances and your spending. You're a what rising? You said you're a Gemini rising? Yeah, so there's a big focus on secret spendings or some changes of habits in regards to your spending. Right? And as well for you, so Gemini ascendant is here. If we count 9, we would come to Aquarius. The sun is in your 9th house, which has to do with your transportation. It also has to do with your philosophy and your education and your higher learning. Actually, and the full moon is in your 3rd house with having to make a decision and use logic and reason and rational mind in connection to your schooling, or whether to fix a car, or whether to fix your schooling patterns and such. Naomi, you're welcome. Sherry says she has Saturn in Virgo. That seems like early 70s. Actually, that's late 70s. That's 77, maybe 76. But Saturn in Virgo is here. And Saturn, actually, it's next to this orange line. Your Saturn is next to this line. So we'd use these markers, marking points. Your Saturn is here. So Saturn in Virgo at 5 degrees is significant for you in regards, this full moon triggers your discipline and structure and routines depending on where the house location. If you have Saturn at 5 degrees of Virgo. That has an upset. So you want to make sure you pay attention to the foods that you eat. That puts the full moon in your 12th house. Your sleep house, your house of sleep. Hillary, you're welcome. Be sure to subscribe. Smash the like button. Smash the subscription button. Smash the like button. I would like to come live a little more often. Get back on the flow and flux to share some of this astrological insight. I think tomorrow I want to start off doing the lives with starting off from scratch. Like having a blank chart. That's not blank because I put markers all over it, but this is what I would like to do and have, because this is so beneficial to map out. Of all the things that we've talked about here, we can recognize that not only the fixed signs in the zodiac are significant with this full moon in Leo, but Jupiter at 6 degrees becomes the main significant planet in one respect, because it's close to 5 degrees and it's being T-squared by the sun and the moon. Oh, Sherry, so you're a Gemini rising. So that's difficulties in your living situation, in your home. Some unsettling circumstances that you've been grinning and bearing for quite some time, with Saturn at 5 degrees of Virgo. And this full moon actually brings you to a point where you want to speak up about it and express yourself. And it may be a little bit rebellious or sporadic or high energy. And I say that because Gemini is the sign of the communicator. However, the full moon is happening in Leo, which is 1, 2, 3. Gemini's 1, 2, third house, which is relations with the brother, sister, cousin, close relative, as well as your mindset and your thinking of these circumstances and responsibilities in the household and respect issues in the house. Are there any other questions? The more questions you ask, the longer I stay. Whoa. You know, it's interesting because the depending on where you're located, Gemini is rising in the East Coast. I do deal with Chiron. Do I have Chiron on here somewhere? Yes, I have Chiron here. Chiron is in Aries at 15 degrees. What I was going to say is that if you're in the East Coast, Gemini is rising, which is a secondary testimony of Saturn being in Virgo in the fourth house rather, at 5 degrees. It's a strong need for you to communicate to a family member, right, about their contribution, actually, to be specific. Because Gemini and Virgo are both ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is currently located in Capricorn, which is Gemini's 8th house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is the house of shared resources. Yeah, Chiron is here. Chiron is actually working on your friendships and healing you in regards to your goal. Oh, there's another thing that I wanted to talk about with this. If you look here, let me show you this. This is what I found pretty interesting. I'm going to do this with, how do I want to do this? I want to do this like this. Okay, so from here to here, we have oh no, it's not from there to there. It's from there to here. So this compartment, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, and then we have Leo here. Now, in some schools of thought, right? In some schools of thought, they call this a bucket. They call this a bucket. And this is the handle. This would be the handle to the bucket. Oh. You can't, I guess it's getting too much in here, but this would be the bucket. And the 0 degree or the 5th degree of the moon would be the handle to the bucket. And it's kind of like the bucket is pouring, like it's spilling. And this is Venus at 2 degrees of Capricorn. So it's like it's pouring this bucket, this shape of the chart. All the planets are from 2 degrees of Capricorn to 19 degrees of Taurus. They're all situated here. We got Venus, Mercury, Mars, Pluto, Sun, Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, North Node, Jupiter, Uranus. All these planets here, right? And we have the full moon here. So it's kind of like she's pouring. If it was here, then she would be holding a bucket of water, but she's pouring it. And she's pouring it out of Venus, if you will. It's being poured. The water's being poured out of here. This is supposed to be water. So it's pouring out of this bucket, which makes Venus significant as well when you look at the geometry of the astrological chart. It's pouring out through Venus. So Venus in Capricorn is a significator as well. For Gemini risings, per what I was saying about that conversation that needs to be had about relationships within the household, you know, it has to do with finances and or values or peacekeeping or the way that others create and treat and have peace within environments within inside the house. You know, it's fairness with one's work behalf, the type of work that one does to contribute towards and to and with the house. So that's the astrological chart there. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. Maybe we'll do another one later, compile these together in a later video.